OC Lore slideshow by me, Goot. So the basic intro for this OC lore is I'm gonna do some world building on this thing. It's like Earth, but in the future, maybe like 50 or 40 years in the future. But it has been infected by an alien parasite that was living dormant on a meteor, which crashed into the Earth undetected and into the ocean. The parasite started multiplying with the fish hosts and spreading all to the water sources and in the atmosphere and all the air and the food. The infection spread real quickly without anyone realizing, and all the big animals on the Earth were infected. Basically, in their brains, the parasite was living and trying to mutate them. So humans started developing mutations. Their bodies started fighting back from the parasite. So some of the mutations that they could get are the physical, the radiation, and the magic, and or the immunity. So they could get like all four or just one. Yeah. So going into the parasites, it's a microscopic, simple organism similar to a C. elegans, like one of those real simple worms that people use to test on. They're ingested through food, water, and air. They travel through the body towards the brain, mostly through the blood, but other places can be too. Once they're in the brain, they begin to grow and release chemicals into the brain, trying to take it over. The larger the parasite, the harder time it has, like kind of getting to the brain through all like trying to avoid the immune system that's already put in place by the human. So if they're bigger, they'll be noticed quicker, but if they're smaller, they can pretty much get through. But then once they're there, it's harder for like a smaller one to take over the brain quickly without, being noticed when it starts to grow. But a big one, it has got a better chance. So the immune system responds to the chemicals by rapidly mutating the cells in the body. It does this by like killing existing cells and replacing them with new mutated ones. If the body is successful and produces enough mutations to stop and kill the parasite, it will, kill the parasite and have the host have like a dead little husk of a parasite in their brain, and they will be cured. They will be safe from other mutation that cannot be mutated again, because they've already got the antibodies to protect from that. So people who are being controlled by the parasite, so if the parasite succeeds in mutating the brain and emitting enough chemicals to finally take over the brain, they are usually referred to as zombies, but the more respectful and professional term used by more scientists is infected. And once the parasite has infected the body, it gains about 60% of the information and memories that were stored in the brain, so it can like make some speech, but they're not like as smart as the human that it infected the host of. So once the parasite has infected them, after a while, the parasite might gain some form of personality or emotions, kind of sometimes based similarly upon the host of the human before it. So if like the host was like a philanthropist type of person, always putting others before themselves, it might gain a kind of similar personality and be a little less self-centered. But most of them just turn into extremely hostile and like wanting to kill everything that isn't a parasite. Some of the parasites will surrender to exterminators with the promise that the exterminators give that they will be studied for an undisclosed amount of time, depending on how interesting they are, and then they will be let free with benefits like living is paid for and all that after the experiments have been done, instead of being slaughtered by the exterminators, which that might be good for some of them, but then other ones might not want that, so then they either run away or fight and die. So parasites who do this, like going in, are heavily monitored no matter what mutations they possess, even if they're just a human. So here's the parasite diagram. I haven't done a good one yet. This is just a sketch. So this is where it kind of like real zoomed in, kind of, and it's real small. It's got these little like tentacle little leggy things that when they're in a brain, they start spreading through the brain and sending signals to wherever they want to send them to the brain. So when they're, doing that, they control the brain. And then that's from the other side. This is a brain, by the way. And this is a dead parasite. If it's killed, it just kind of scrunches up and stays there. It doesn't shrivel away. It just kind of stays there. Like, so no other parasite can go where a parasite already is, even if it's dead. So that's why when the body kills the parasite, it is immune to other parasites from infecting it. So these are the classifications of whoever is mutated or infected. The first one is human. The most rare one is a pure human, which means that they have never been infected by the parasite, and they still have like an empty brain, basically. Like their brain does not have a parasite in it, even if it's dead or alive. This is extremely rare because the parasites are everywhere. So the only ways you could do this are like the first sign you hear of danger of a parasite, like on the other side of the world, you get down in a bunker and then you live off what is in there, basically. Or there's like a bunch of rich people that partook in a experimental brain science type of thing where they got a surgery and implanted a fake parasite into their brain. This killed most of them. It was like a 20% survival chance, but they didn't know how easy it was to live with a parasite in their brain. So all the other ones are not available because a mutant will always have a parasite. So will a radiohuman and a radiomutant. Radiohuman, radiomutant stand for radioactive human and radioactive mutant. So the classifications for what the parasite status is are pure, live, dead, and infected. Pure means no parasite, live means living parasite, dead means dead parasite, and infected means the parasite has taken over the brain. So humans, I've already explained pure humans on a bit, so I'm going to skip to the live humans. A live human is a human with a live parasite infecting them. Their immune system has not yet gotten all the antibodies together to attack this parasite, so it's still mutating, so they could either stay human and soon kill that parasite, or they're going to develop some mutations. Or it could also be caused by taking a drug every day to keep the parasite dormant so it stops sending chemicals through the body. This is usually done so that they can work on like a cure until they have a way to stop the mutations, but at this point, not many people do that anymore because it's... Oh, my mom's calling. Okay, I'm back. I think I remember where I was. I think I was about here. So dead humans. A dead human does not refer to an actually dead human. A dead human refers to a human whose immune system killed the parasite without any visible mutations. Like, a visible mutation could include, like, horns. That would be a mutant. But a non-visible mutation, like extra set of ribs, would not be considered a mutation, and they would still be considered human. Organs, like a small, like, extra double-jointed type of thing that develops after, like, that's not a big enough mutation to be considered a mutant. An infected human is a human who has been taken over by a parasite and is being actively infected by it. Like, the parasite can control the body, and the human is considered dead because there is no way to remove the parasite after it is infected the human without killing the human. Out of the, like, 5 types, the classifications, like, humans, mutants, radiomutants, and infected. Humans are the least monitored by the higher powers, which include what is left of the government and the military, which is in charge of the exterminators. Human uniforms. Everyone has a uniform given to them by the government to identify what kind of thing they are. Their uniform only includes a radiation-proof turtleneck, and anything else their job requires them to wear. So, like, if a human is in a job that requires them to wear a radiation-proof suit, they will wear that as well. But if their job does not require anything extra, they'll just wear the turtleneck. Children born after the spread inherit their parents' immune systems. So if, like, a human who has overcome the parasite and another human have a child, and both of them had the immunity beforehand, the child will be infected by the parasite while in the womb, but it will be able to kill the parasite while also gaining a bunch of the mutations that their parents had. So if they're both humans, the baby will be human too. But if there's, like, a mutant and a human, then the baby might have horns or something, depending on, you know, what the mutations were. When someone is infected by the parasite, they have a 65% survival rate, which is not 100, but it's not too low for being rapidly mutated. So most people take their chances if they have a choice. Other people don't have a choice and are just mutated. Humans can spend an average of 3 to 4 hours around a radio person without any lasting side effects, which radio person includes radio mutants and radio humans. Mutants, on to the next category. Mutants refer to people who have been infected by the parasite and as a result develop drastic physical mutations. Depending on the mutation that they develop, they will be more or less monitored. It's mostly based on how dangerous they might be to other people. Like, extra muscle gained, like really significant muscular development, is maybe more monitored than just a tiny set of horns. If the mutation is considered dangerous, they might be sorted into a team of exterminators if they pass all the required tests, but this is very unlikely because they are not radiation proof like radio humans and mutants. The common mutations that they can develop are horns, rapid muscle growth, skin color change, wings, tails, significant height changes, extra bones, and other things. If it's found that someone has an extra pair of ribs, they will not be considered a mutant and they will continue to stay a human. Even though it is a mutation, it's just not a big one. Mutants aren't extremely monitored, but they are more so than humans because they do sometimes tend to have better strength and they have more radiation resistance than humans, so they've got, like, a little better of a protective shell. The uniforms that they are required to wear are the same as humans, except depending on the mutation, they might be slightly altered to fit correctly. Like, for example, if the mutant has a pair of wings, they'll just have, like, wing holes for it. They can spend an average of 5 to 6 hours around a radio person without any lasting side effects, which is slightly longer than humans. Radio humans, or RHs, refer to people who developed radioactive properties but little to no mutations visible on their bodies. Radio humans are radiation proof, meaning they can withstand extreme amounts of radiation with no lasting side effects, and they do emit radiation as well. They're heavily monitored, but are not immediately sorted into extermination teams because they're still just like human strength and stuff, so they're not immediately considered weapons. In rare cases, radio humans and mutants and radio mutants have some control over the amount of radiation they emit. It's not that rare, but it is rare to, like, have an extreme effect on them. Somebody might be able to control how much, like, in a greater scale. Like, if they usually emit, like, a lot, they can sometimes emit more if they really try, but it's usually not noticeable on any scales. But if it is, then they're more likely to be put into an extermination team. Radio humans who have control over them are given more freedom to interact with humans because if they can keep the radiation levels down, they could probably spend more time around them without it being dangerous to the humans and mutants. They're required to wear radiation-proof clothes that protect the humans and the mutants. It's not a protection to them. Clothing includes a turtleneck, long pants, and combat boots, like all basically skin tight, so that it kind of keeps the radiation in, most of it, so they're emitting less, and also not damaging their own clothes. So depending on how much radiation they emit, the thicker the fabric will be. So, like, if someone emits a lot of radiation, they might need thicker fabric to keep it all in. but if it's pretty minimal, they won't need to wear that much. All clothing issued to radio humans legally have a biohazard warning printed on it somewhere, like visible, to notify others that they can be at a potentially dangerous radiation level. So radio mutants. Radio mutants are the most monitored class of the 4. This is due to them being the most dangerous because, you know, they've got mutations that make them stronger and radiation that makes them radioactive. Because of that, the radio mutants are strength tested and sorted into extermination teams based on skills they possess or mutations that they have. Extermination teams are teams created by the military and government to fight, kill, and study the hostile infected people. In exchange for obedience, the exterminators have access to free housing, food, and all medical care given to them by the government. So usually they're pretty okay with this, except it is an extremely life-threatening job for them to have, so not everyone wants, well, nobody wants to be in it, but like if they are in it, it's not all bad. They're not like slaves. When the teams are like out, they stay in apartment-style buildings with reinforced walls designed to withstand radiation and nuclear energy. Some emitted from them and others emitted from just where they are, like in the area. Like if a nuclear bomb went off in a combat area, they wouldn't do much damage to their living quarters. They are allowed to own homes outside of the apartments that they're kind of shoved into while they're on jobs. They're only allowed in certain areas. Radio mutants with minimal mutations may fail strength tests and not be sorted into extermination teams, but they will still be monitored. And they won't get any of the perks that comes with being a member of an extermination team. So anyone can join and sign up to be in an extermination team, and if they meet the requirements, they will be let in, even if they like don't have any radioactive properties or aren't a mutant. Only radio mutants and in rare cases radio humans are required to be tested and join the team, but other people, you know, can join if they really, really want to, and if they're, you know, tested and trained for the jobs that they need to be doing. Some exterminators are put on special teams to deal with criminals that aren't infected but still dangerous to the general public. They are referred to as the enforcers. Basically, they're like police officers, but like for more powerful criminals that like have mutations and radiation. The uniforms exterminators and enforcers wear are the same, but different colors. So exterminators have a bright yellow hazmat suit, and enforcer have a darker blue. The uniform consists of custom radiation and combat-proof skin-tight hazmat suit, a hazmat helmet, combat boots with steel toe, a detachable sleeves and gloves, and a detachable like pant legs part of their uniform. So that's for when they're off the job, they still wear that, but just without all the extra coverage. If they're not sorted into an extermination team, they get the same uniform as the radio humans, but with the modifications to account for their mutations. Magic people. So magic people can be any of the 4 classes, humans, mutants, radio humans, and radio mutants. So anyone can develop magic, but this is like its own category. Magic is the most desirable mutation you can develop because, you know, everyone kind of wants magic, and it's one of the more powerful ones, like more useful as well. Common abilities to develop are elements, for example, air, water, electricity, fire, other things. Mind reading, minor transformation, like they can't completely mutate their entire bodies like a mutant looks like, but they can like make their hands bigger or, I don't know, change the color of their eyes type of thing. Real small. And molecular control. So they can kind of control their molecules and other molecules to like do minor things that they wouldn't usually do. There are other types of, you know, powers that other people can develop, but they're way less common, usually more powerful because they're less common. People who develop strong forms of magic are usually encouraged to be tested for an extermination team, but not forced. Usually people who develop magic don't choose to make it public, so they will not be scouted for an extermination team and like made to, like, they won't be like called up by a million people telling them you should join an extermination team or like try out. It's common for magic abilities to be triggered by emotion or sudden changes in vitals like heart rate, so it's not always a choice to control. Like if your heart starts beating really fast and you're scared, then your magic is gonna, you know, show itself a little bit. So it's not always a choice to show or hide it. All abilities need to be like evaluated for danger to the public, basically. So if you pass, which it's very common for people to pass because usually the magic doesn't really do much, it's like, you know, real weak telekinesis or something like that, and it's not going to do anything to anyone. Evaluation usually tests for making sure the abilities are stable and the user has control over them. If they're deemed dangerous and not fit for extermination, like they have no control over their magic but it's still dangerous, they're usually sorted into buildings farther away from populated areas. They're not jails, but they're intended to help people like train their magic to be more safe. If they're evaluated again after being transferred into that and pass the evaluation, they can move back into where they used to live or a higher populated area. Here are the uniforms. There's no uniform for magic. It's whichever one of these. So humans just have this black turtleneck. Sometimes there's a zipper on it if it's like skin tight or a different type of thing. The mutants with no radiation have like another turtleneck, but like it might be tailored differently. Like this guy has wings, so the wings have holes cut for them to be able to fit. A radio human has a full body basically, except for hands and face, of a turtleneck, long skin tight pants, and combat boots. And radio mutants have, so this is the main part right here. It's got a zipper here, and it's made of hazmat material, but it's like way more durable. And then it connects to gloves if they want them on, and pants, and the tail. If the mutant has a tail, it will be covered, but the wings and the horns will not be covered because they don't emit as much radiation as the rest of the body. So they're usually left out because they're way more useful that way. Other info that I missed All mutations developed during the live stage are extremely painful to endure and can last for an extremely long time. Some mutants are slow to develop and hurt less than others that develop rapidly. So, for example, if you developed wings in a week, that would hurt way more than if you developed wings in a year, because it's growing real slow. It's basically just like growing pains in your legs when you get really tall. People who have been infected and overcame it cannot be infected again in the future. I think I got that, but I didn't write it down. It was predicted that after 10 to 15 years that the Earth would reach some type of homeostasis and people would be a little more comfortable living with the mutations and all the parasites that might remain in the atmosphere and stuff. So people will still always have like the mutations and the radiation, but it's expected that society will be able to function a little better by 10 to 15 years, which might seem like a real short time, and is, but everyone in that time will most likely already be infected and not be able to be infected again. So they'll just have to deal with the radiation, and all the hostile ones will probably be killed by then, or like not a big problem. So that shouldn't be that big of a problem. Like, sure, it's not going to function great, but it's not going to function poorly, as poorly as it is right now. And like this world that I've decided to make takes place kind of in like 2 or 3 years after the main spread happened. So like it's been changed, but like society's been changed, but they haven't really done much to like improve general living of everyone. They're doing the best they can. Children that are born will already have the mutations that grant them immunity and mutations, and the infected people that are not hostile will have integrated into society and won't be fighting for dominance over the population by then. All the animals are also infected with parasites. The size of the host is required to be like the average cat size and larger. If the host is too small, like a small fish, it won't be infected. If the host is too big, the parasite won't be able to fight the immune system. Like a big blue whale, it won't be able to get into the brain and fight the immune system fast enough to be able to take it over. So depending on the size of the brain, how about that? Depending on the size of the brain, it will be harder to infect it, or easier, depending on the size. If the host is too small, it won't have enough space for the parasite to live comfortably and move around, and so it just doesn't do those. Since the parasite inherits intelligence and memory from the host, most animals will have very minimal changes to their personality because they don't really have as much, consciousness of like a society as humans do. Like sure, some of them do, but it doesn't affect the human population that much. Parasites have a small sense of need to take over the population, but it's common to be amplified when it's infecting a host with a lot of brain activity, or a species near the top of the food chain. It can kind of tell when it's like on top, so like it'll be like, yeah, all right, let's take over now. Kind of like that. They don't really know why yet. The next section of the slides is dedicated to the specific character info that I've come up with so far. I've only got 3 characters, so this section is pretty short right now. First character I made was Maragnite, or Maggie. She's a female. She's 31 years old. She's a dead radio mutant, meaning the parasite in her brain is dead. She's stopped mutating. Her close friends and family call her Maggie. The mutations she got include strong radioactive properties and a good control over the amount emitted. 4 arms, 4 horns, large tail, long ears, snout-like facial features, muscular legs, abnormal height, sharp teeth, and bruise-colored skin. She was based on one of those goats with 4 horns. That's what her design was based on. I just like to draw her. So that's what she's got going on. That's why I made her like that. She had a weak immune system before the mutation and therefore developed extreme mutations and was sorted into an extermination team like almost right away because her mutations happen quite quickly, and they are considered some of the better ones because she's got like better strength, height, 4 arms, a tail that she can use in combat, and horns, all that type of stuff that would be good for combat type situations. She was dating Abacus, which is another character on this slideshow, before she was infected, and now is married to him. They don't have wedding rings. Instead, they have septum piercings that they match with. I thought that would be cool instead of just a ring. Abacus is not radiation proof, so they can't be together for extended periods of time. Here's Abacus. He's a male, 30-year-old. He's still human, but he's a live human, which means the parasite in his brain has not mutated his body yet, and so there's still that potential to happen. Maggie calls him Abby, but no one else does. I don't think anyone else even probably knows that she does that. It's mostly to tease him. Every day, he takes a drug via a shot to paralyze the parasite. The only side effect of this is bright bluish-green glowing eyes and slightly blue-tinted skin. He grew up in a rich household with parents who encouraged him to pursue science, which he did do. He became a chemist, and in the beginning of the spread, he developed a really quick on-the-spot chemical to postpone the mutation by safely paralyzing the parasite. After Maggie survived the mutations that she went through, he married her instead of, breaking up with her because they could not be together for more than 4 hours. He studied the effects of the parasite on people and develops chemicals to keep the parasites from infecting people. All the medicine he takes every single day, he's created by himself in his little lab. So that's Abacus. And Polonium, she's the most complicated. She's a female, 28 years old. She's a live magic radio human. She worked as a test pilot for the military before the spread, and after the spread, she continued to work for the military, but she flew planes that dropped bombs on areas infested with hostile infected. Her plane was taken down during a drop, and she was caught in the explosion from the dropped bomb. Radioactive mutations kept her alive, but did not save her skin, which is seen in a little photo of her taking off the mask and some of the bandages that I've made. You can see her skin is not really there, and she's basically a burn victim at this point. But she continues to work as a pilot after the crash, even though she didn't need to. She just wants to. She continues mutating and hides the physical mutation she is developing. Like, she's not considered a mutant yet, but if the mutation continues, she will soon be considered a mutant because she is developing wings. She doesn't want to be tied down more than she already is by joining an extermination team, which is why she's hiding the mutations. Her best friend is Maggie, who also helps her hide the mutations, even though she's like a team leader of an extermination team. She hides the biohazard logo on her uniform so people don't know she's a radiohuman. That is an illegal act, and she knows, but she really doesn't care. She has control over how much radiation she emits, but not as much as Maggie, but she still does. So it's easier for her to hide that she is a radiohuman than others. She has weak magical control over air pressure and wind direction. So it's not the most useful thing, but in her job, it might, like, she might be able to use it to her advantage if she, you know, has good control over it, which she does. But it's not the biggest, help to most people. But that is the end of my slideshow so far. Hope you enjoyed. Bye-bye!